Hi friend, I'm Olivia Smith. Thanks for visiting my YouTube channel where I share the latest global news every day. You can also read more news on TimeGlitter.com. You can find all the links in the video description below. In case the link isn't working, simply copy and paste the link into your web browser, hit enter, and you're good to go. Now let's jump into today's news headline. Girl dies after sand hole at Florida beach collapses on her. News details. A very sad accident happened on a Florida beach. A little girl, Sloan Mattingly, who was only 5 years old, passed away. She was playing with her brother Maddox, who is 7 years old. They were digging a hole in the sand together when suddenly the hole collapsed on them. Sloan was completely covered by the sand, and Maddox got buried up to his chest. Some people nearby tried to help by digging with their hands and buckets, but the sand kept falling back into the hole. This beach, called Lauderdale-by-the-Sea, doesn't have lifeguards, so there weren't any trained rescuers nearby at the time of the accident. The police and firefighters arrived a few minutes later after people called for help. During the emergency calls, you could hear the sadness and worry in the voices of the people trying to help. Some of them were nurses, but they couldn't do much to save Sloan. It was a heartbreaking scene with many people trying their best to dig Sloan out of the sand, but sadly, they couldn't reach her in time. A spokesperson from the Pompano Beach Fire Rescue Department, Sandra King, explained what happened after the bystanders tried to help. Rescuers used shovels to carefully dig out the sand and used boards to make sure the hole stayed stable. Sadly, when they reached the little girl, Sloan, she didn't have a pulse. Paramedics tried to bring her back, but she was declared dead at the hospital. The condition of Sloan's brother hasn't been shared yet. The parents of the children were very upset, understandably. The paramedics who helped had to take a break from their work because it was such a difficult situation. King, who represents the Fire Rescue Department for Lauderdale-by-the-Sea, described how terrible the situation was. One moment, the children were happily playing in the sand, and the next there was a life-threatening emergency. It's reported that every year in the United States, about 3 to 5 children die when the sand holes they're digging collapse on them. This can happen at the beach, in parks, or even at home. Sometimes, kids get seriously hurt and need CPR to survive. Sadly, recent incidents include a 17-year-old in North Carolina, a 13-year-old in Utah, and an 18-year-old in New Jersey, all of whom were buried while digging in the sand. A study from the New England Journal of Medicine warns that this danger might not seem obvious because it's linked with fun activities in relaxed places. Lifeguards advise parents to be cautious when letting their children dig in the sand and to make sure they don't dig too deep. Patrick Bafford, who supervises lifeguards in Clearwater, Florida, mentioned that his team tries to warn families if a hole in the sand becomes too large. However, sometimes they don't notice it in time. We've seen cases where people had close calls or lost their lives because of these collapses, he explained. We want everyone to have fun, but there's a big difference between fun and facing a dangerous situation. It's tough for people to realize that even the beach can be risky. Accidents can happen unexpectedly. It's important to be careful and make wise choices. Sean DeRosa, who trains lifeguards, pointed out that many people don't fully consider the risks of letting children dig deep or wide holes in the sand. People may know that the sand could collapse or the walls might cave in, but they often don't think about how quickly a child could be buried, he stated. And they may not understand how challenging it can be to rescue a child once the sand collapses. Don't forget to hit the like button, drop a comment, share with others, and subscribe to the YouTube channel.